YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And today I have my 2019 college football preview for you guys. Got my top 25 rankings. We're going to talk key players. We're going to go in depth about the top teams, so a lot to go over here. I wanted to wait a little closer to the season to do this video, but I just couldn't wait. I'm really pumped for this video. A lot went into this. And then at the end of the video, we will talk about the teams that just missed the cut and then sneaky teams, sleeper teams to watch out for. There's some good ones this year. So all that to go over right before we get started. We have a 40K subscriber goal by the end of the year. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, it'd be much appreciated if you do so. We do have daily sports content, college football, NFL, and NBA. We got full coverage of the NFL, upcoming NFL season coming. And then we'll have weekly college football pick'ems as well. There's our Twitter top right. And then clicking that like button would be much appreciated. So I'm going to reveal 5 teams at a time, starting with 25 to 21, and we'll go down. And then I'll go a little bit in depth about some of these teams. So we'll start at the bottom here. For number 25, I have Houston. I had to sneak Houston in there. Getting West Virginia's coach, Holgorsen, I think is huge. I think that offense is going to be that much better, and especially with a quarterback like Derek King, I think, he's got a little Kyler Murray in him, so I think he's going to get fancy there, and they already were, they already had a pretty dynamic offense, but I think it's going to be that much better, and then you got a couple returning guys that are pretty solid as well, so I have 3 key players to watch for each team, I can sit here, most of these teams, these are all really good teams, I can sit here and name off a million players on their team, but kind of the ones I want to focus on are on the board. Stevenson, their top returning receiver, over 1,000 yards, and Spreewell was an excellent safety for them, returning leader in tackles and interceptions for them. And it's something I noticed about my top 25 teams. There's a lot of good safeties, a lot of good tackling safeties I've noticed for this upcoming season and from last year. So Houston 25, mainly because I'm predicting them to just be crazy good on offense. I think they'll be tough to stop for some of those AAC teams. Pretty good conference. You see another team coming up we'll talk about, and there's another really good team as well. But on to number 24 is Washington State. And I just really like Mike Leach. I like his offense. I like his I like his game plan, but I like how he's, pretty. He doesn't get conservative. That's the best way to explain it. Some of these coaches, mainly in college, I guess doesn't happen, but he's not afraid to put games away. That's what I'm trying to get at, and I like that about Mike Leach. And then Minshew's gone, but I don't really think it's a big problem. Mike Leach did it again. He went out and he recruited his transfer quarterback, Gage Gubrud, from Eastern Washington, who actually has FCS records, passing yards and touchdowns. It was in 2016, but a guy that can really fit that offense. And then a couple of receivers that I'm really looking forward to is Patman and Martin. Patman's really the one, 6'4", big size receiver, and had an excellent year last year. I think he obviously gets better this year and has an excellent season for them. So that's a team to look out for, mainly because their defense was very solid, definitely the best of the Pac-12 last year. So I think they can do, something similar. I just don't think the defense would be crazy. And then Utah State, I got 23. Now, I don't know if people are talking about Utah State. Jordan Love. I love Jordan Love's game. He actually reminds me a little bit of Marcus Mariota. Just the way he moves, the way he throws the ball a little bit, just kind of reminds me. His throwing motion really reminds me of him. And a couple studs on defense returning. Tipa Gale, who actually led the team in sacks, he's returning 10.5 sacks. And then DJ Williams, who I thought was going to go to the draft, and I thought would have been a top option as the nickel corner in the NFL. So he's back. This is a very good team. Very good season last year. And they'll battle Boise State. And I think Utah State ends up being top 25. And something to clear up actually here is, I guess I do think Utah State ends up being top 25, but I'm not predicting what the final rankings will be. I'm just going the top 25, the best teams in college football, in my opinion, based off their talent, coaching staff. So that's how I'm doing this here. Number 22 is Miami. I think they step back up, get back in here. Tate Martell's we finally get to see him. He's been hyped up so much, and we finally get to see him. I think he'll be a pretty solid quarterback for them. Really, their linebacker unit in general should be one of the top ones in the nation. Shaq Quarterman is the guy to look out for. Another guy that could be a first-round pick, maybe second-round pick in the NFL draft. And then Jonathan Garvin is their best returning pass rusher with the loss of Joe Jackson there. So Miami's a team to look out for. I think they step up. I think Martell brings a different game to their offense. So it's going to be fun to watch. Central Florida, they're always up here. And then they get Brandon Wimbush from Notre Dame. He's a great runner. Not the fastest runner, but he's pretty quick. But he breaks a lot of tackles. Almost looks like a running back. And at times he can throw. He's a little inconsistent with his accuracy, but he's a playmaking quarterback. Is what he is. So he'll fit right in there with Central Florida. And Max, of course, is hurt, so it's not really much of a quarterback battle anymore. McCray is their running back, a little undersized running back, but he's great for them, over 1,000 yards rushing. And another one of those safeties that really just stands out all over the place, really does it all. It's kind of a tackling machine there too, in Richie Grant, returning tackler, leading tackler, and an interception. Another one of those safeties. A lot of good ones. On to my next 5 teams, and again, at the end, we'll talk about the teams that just missed and maybe some sneaky teams. Missouri's at 20. They get Kelly Bryant. He's not Drew Lock. He's nowhere near the same type of quarterback Drew Lock is, but it actually could work out better. They pretty much have the opposite of what their strengths and weaknesses are. Lock was great throwing the ball downfield, needed to work on accuracy and the intermediate throws, the short throws. And it's pretty much the opposite for Bryant. I don't want to say he can't throw downfield. It's just sometimes he doesn't pull the trigger. He's just kind of almost afraid, doesn't have enough confidence. So maybe, I think maybe he has the confidence now. Getting benched at Clemson, transferring, getting the shot here. I think he's ready to play, and he's really good rolling out, throwing on the run, and then making plays happen with his feet. Downfield running. So I think it actually can work out. I was a big Drew Lock fan, but this actually could somehow make them better actually. And then Larry Roundtree's been excellent over the years. Do it all back, and then Albert Okwe-Boonham, the tight end, who probably could have been a first-round pick, maybe second-round pick if he went to the draft. And then he'll probably go after this year, and then he should be, we'll say, in the first 2 rounds. So pretty solid Missouri team here offensively. They're going to need to put up points, though. They have to go out there and put up the points. I know they're going to play against some top SEC defenses, so it will be tough. They don't really have the defense. Not that it's bad or anything. They just don't have the defense to compete with those other top SEC teams. Penn State is the next team, and, without McSorley and without Sanders, maybe it looks a little tough. I think this defense will be really good this year, towards the top of the nation. And you got Gross Matos, who is, getting a lot of talk about the first round. Another guy that I think, I wouldn't lock him in the first round, second round at this point. He's their sack leader. He's going to get a lot of sacks this year. He gets the pressure on the quarterback. And then Micah Parsons is an interesting one because he didn't even start every single game last year, and he's their tackling leader, returning to the linebacker position here. So he's going to start. He's going to get all the action. And it's a tackling machine. Definitely a guy to look out for. And then Pat Freiermuth is their tight end who had 8 touchdowns last year. So that's a guy that I'm looking forward to watching on that offense. I expect Sean Clifford to be their quarterback. So it's going to be a little different look than McSorley. At first glance, I think it hurts them, but it could throw off some other Big Ten teams possibly. So I think mainly they're up here because of their defense. I think it'll be a top defense. And then 18's Washington. I think some other people are maybe a little too high on Washington. I think they're just a little too hyped on Jacob Eason. I want to see a little more of him. The transfer from Georgia. I wasn't impressed from what we saw. It was a small sample size, but I think he can be good in this Washington offense. I think he can be a good quarterback, but I'm not getting too hyped up. But I do like his help, really. The 2 returning receivers, Aaron Fuller being their top one, and they have Ty Jones. So those guys are back. The problem is they lost a lot on defense. Who's going to step up? That's what we're looking for, who can step up. Some people consider them DBU. There's a couple of schools that you consider that, but they've been pumping out secondary players, and who's going to step up? Not a lot of big-time known ones there. So defense, somewhat of a concern, which it's been good over the years. So we'll see. Really depends on Eason's play. You look at Auburn, you got a question at quarterback, expected to be Willis. Whitlow, the running back, has been solid, so he's a solid returner. But mainly it's the D-line is what keeps Auburn up here. You got Derek Brown, the D-tackle, who's a first-round pick. You could consider him an elite run stopper. At the college level, definitely an elite run stopper. Gets some pressure. That could turn into sacks going forward. and Nick Coe has been the guy that's been getting the sacks. 7 sacks last year. So Auburn's really up here because their defense, like usual, but I also can see them struggling at times. It was a team I was back and forth on, in the 20s, kind of back down here, but again, I'm ranking these teams based off how good they are. I'm not predicting records here, and I'm not predicting what the committee's gonna rank because I never agree with those anyways. So even though I thought they did a pretty solid job last year, I think last year was, some people might disagree, but I thought they did a pretty good job. But I think Auburn is they're the 17th best team in football is what I got. And then Iowa, another tricky one like Auburn because they may not produce a whole bunch of offense, losing their top 2 targets, both tight ends, both went in the first round, and Hawkinson and Noah Fant. I like Stanley. He started to play better and better as the season went on. So they can still produce some offense. They weren't a big offensive team, obviously. And then Tyrone Tracy is the guy to look out for, really. Kind of a bold prediction here. They really like him. He's a redshirt freshman. I just keep hearing how much they like him. So that's why he's up here. And he could be the top target, actually. And then obvious one here, Epinesa, the defensive end. It should be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Could lead the nation in sacks. And it had quite a bit last year at 10.5 sacks, I believe it was. So really looking forward to watching him. But it's going to be interesting to see if this offense can get it going. Looking at Penn State, something similar, a Big Ten team here. I just think a really, really good defense from Iowa. And, great coaching staff, too. Really like that coaching staff. Epinesa is where it starts. You got an elite pass rusher here and run stopper, really. So, playmakers like that, players like that. Really, and I like Stanley. I guess that's the difference between Iowa and Penn State, which who knows, Penn State could have that surprise quarterback in Clifford, but Stanley's proven to me that he can improve, and I expect him to be pretty solid even without his top targets, and guys will step up, They always do in college football. Next 5 teams. I really like Virginia. I really like this team. I almost want to put them higher, but it's kind of tough putting Virginia up there. They got talent. They got real talent here. And there's a couple teams on here that are a little surprising that, we finally get to see these teams up here. And Virginia's one of them. Bryce Perkins, I really like his game. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. Wasn't really expecting much from him last year. What do you have? 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he had just under 1,000 rushing yards. So I think he'll get over possibly this year unless they want to throw the ball more. But teams will be scared of Virginia and Bryce Perkins. And another Bryce Hall, who is the best cornerback in the country. I can't wait for really him going in the NFL. I think he's a top 10 NFL pick right now too. A physical corner, pretty athletic, great footwork, can be a playmaker, but mainly he's feared, and that's what I really like. I like those feared corners, and Jordan Mack is their top linebacker, tackling machine. I mean, there's talent all over this team, all over this roster, really, and Perkins is going to be tough to stop for teams. So I really think it's Clemson versus Virginia at the top of the ACC. It's you're asking a lot for Virginia to dethrone Clemson, I guess. But that team's good. That team's good. It's weird they start at Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh, not the strongest team in the ACC, but that's going to be tough to start at Pittsburgh. They're also at Notre Dame. They can get revenge from a couple years ago. So that's going to be a heck of a game. And then just getting that ACC championship, possibly playing Clemson, it's definitely a team to look out for. Again, I'm really excited about this team, really am. Iowa State's another one. It's kind of surprising seeing Iowa State this high, but another team, and I think they have a chance to really, they can win the Big 12. They really can, Brock Purdy was a true freshman last year, so he's coming back. He did have his mistakes, mainly in that bowl game, which they could have won still. So, but I think he'll fix that up. He's just going to continue to get better. I really like that they stuck it out with the true freshman there. And then they got probably their best D lineman there in Jaquan Bailey, who gets some good pressure. And then Eisworth's yet another one of those safeties that's really just all over the field. So I like their defense. I think this could be the best defense in the Big 12. We're kind of used to it being TCU. I guess, yeah, it could be, but I think Iowa State could be. They don't have any flashy guys on defense, but a lot of returning guys that can play, really. So I like them at 14. Just kind of weird seeing them up there. Michigan at 13. I think some people are a little high on Michigan. I like Michigan. They got some good talent there. They got some talented players. But everyone always, I was a little too high, and I'm going in last year. Everyone gets a little too high. Really, what it comes down to is Shea Patterson. I think I was high on him last year. I expected a little more, And now I'm kind of just the opposite. He's a good quarterback. He's more than a good quarterback, but I don't have a whole bunch of trust in him. It seems like he can play when it comes down to where they really, really need him or in clutch situations. He's really not there, and that definitely can step up this year. I love their receivers. Nico Collins was super impressive down the stretch last year. Really good in the red zone, great body control, great hands. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones is more of he's going to help the team in more ways, obviously, that athlete, solid receiver. I like Collins as more of an NFL receiver. And Lavert Hill could be one of the top corners in all of college football. I think Bryce Hall is the top one, but Lavert Hill is up there with him. So, Michigan's got talent, it's just, can they execute? I think number 12 and number 13 are right here in the same section. They got the team? Can they execute? Texas, always, everyone always starts to get back on the Texas train. They're back, but they always kind of let you down. They got really good at the end of last year, beating Georgia in that bowl game. And they got talent. They got their quarterback, and Ellinger can do multiple different things. Colin Johnson's back. One of the better receivers in the country. And then Brandon Jones, yet another one of those safety. He's fun to watch. Brandon Jones is real good. A do-it-all safety. But then a lot of key guys on the defense last year, they're gone. Menahu was big time for them, And the only returning guys are their two safeties, I believe, here. So that's really it. Roach is pretty solid defensive lineman. He got in some action. So I guess two returners that started at the start of last year for this year. But maybe they have the best safety duo in college football, Brandon Jones, who's more of the tackling machine, and then Stearns, who is their returning interception leader. So maybe they really carry the load for that defense. Maybe some guys step up, but they're kind of missing some guys. I just think for them to be like a playoff team, which some people are hoping for, which I'm not ruling out, but they're going to have to score a lot of points, and they can score. I just don't know if they can keep up with some of those teams at the top. And another team, it's kind of weird seeing up here right now, but a good team is Utah. They're real good. A lot of returning guys, even Zach Moss, who's just a beast. I loved his game. Very unfortunate that he got hurt last year, and hopefully he's okay after that injury because he's real good. He was on my radar for the NFL draft before he got hurt, and I think a lot of people were even sleeping on him. And then Tyler Huntley's back, who kind of just made himself their quarterback for a while. They couldn't really figure out who their quarterback was. And Huntley reminds me of Teddy Bridgewater a little bit. Same throwing motion, just something I noticed when watching him last year. And then Jalen Johnson, who you can consider one of the top corners in the nation there. So Utah, and they have Fotu, too, their defensive lineman. They got talent. They got talent. A lot of returning guys. I wish their receiver unit was a little better. I guess that's one thing. But I'm really excited. I liked Huntley, liked what I saw from him. Zach Moss, I was a big fan of him years ago. And then Jalen Johnson, obviously, he can be a top pick in the draft as well. First or second round for him as well. So we'll see. They looked really good at the end of last year. That Northwestern Bowl game, they had that game won. Some fluky things happened, and they kind of let it slip. So we don't want to see any of that choking any games away. But you can see they have the talent. It's just that receiver unit. I think that kind of costed them in that bowl game too. I wish that receiver unit was better, but there's a lot of top returning guys here. That's why I have them all the way up 11. I like this team. For a Pac-12 team, they play defense. This team will play defense. And that's what I like about them too. We're going to 6 through 10. Maybe some surprises coming. Then we got Oregon at 10. So two Pac-12 teams back to back here. And Oregon's tough. Real tough for me. Real risky for me to put 10 in the top 10 because another team that just never really lives up to the hype. They got talent. They got talent everywhere. But can they do it? I thought their play calling, new coaching staff last year, but the play calling was a little conservative. Big time in that bowl game against Michigan State. Surprisingly, that was just a crazy defensive game. But Justin Herbert is the top quarterback prospect as of now for me going to the next NFL draft. So I like his game. I think they're going to open things up a little more. It's kind of what I'm banking on here. They're going to let him throw the ball downfield a little more. They did a little more of that 2 years ago. He's missing Dylan Mitchell, who was his top target, but somebody will step up. And then Troy Dye is an absolute beast at the linebacker position. He had well over 100 tackles, and this guy's everywhere. So we're looking at another NFL prospect here. And they get the top recruits in Kayvon Thibodeau, who would be their defensive end. They lost their 2 top pass rushers, but Thibodeau, I think, will fit them a little better because they kind of had those hybrid guys in the past. Thibodeau would have a hand in the dirt, and he'll get after the quarterback. And, I mean, what else can you look at here? You can look at the offensive line, may be the best offensive line in college football. And then they have a very good running back duo in C.J. Verdell and Travis Dye. That's a very good running back duo. I expect C.J. Verdell to be the main guy there. I mean, this team's got talent all over. They should be better than 10, really, but will they execute? That's the thing. Florida, I got at 9. A lot of returning guys in Florida. Loved them at the end of the year as well. That Michigan bowl game was great. Felipe Franks really surprised me. He was really impressive. He's able to throw the ball a little better and really able to handle pressure pretty well, too. And we know he can run, too. That's something we already knew. But 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, surprised the touchdown. Really impressed by the touchdown-interception ratio. And he's a guy that just showed me he was improving as the season went on. And that's what I really like to see in college football because then we know they can take that next step. So I like Franks a lot. LaMichael P. Ryan, running back, top star returning there. I expect him to get over 1,000 yards, not having to split with Jordan Scarlett. So that should be fun to watch, kind of split the two very solid running backs last year. And C.J. Henderson, another one of those top corners in the country, could be a first-round pick as well. So a lot of returning guys, and that's what I like. The whole defensive line besides Ja'Kai Polite, who's more of that hybrid, besides him, they're all returning, so that's good. Not a whole bunch of production out of those guys, but you expect them to step up, get better, and you just like to see the familiar faces returning. Van Jefferson, I think, will be the top receiver. So this Florida team I think they're pretty darn good. A lot of returning guys, but the main thing is their quarterback showed me he can improve. He can throw the ball under pressure at times. Just really like them at the end of the year. He's got to stay consistent. And Dan Mullen with another year as his head coach. I was tempted to put Florida higher for the reasons I explained. And then Georgia was a team I was actually tempted to put even lower. People may be surprised that I have them even this low at 8. A lot of people have them easily in the top 5. They lost a lot of key players to me. DeAndre Baker being the biggest one to me. He was by far their top corner. Somebody's got to step up there at the corner position. You've seen the guys sit out like Baker in the bowl game against Texas, and they really struggled. There's just random times where they just can't put up points. They can't move the ball. And DeAndre Swift, as great as he is, I think he could actually be a little more consistent. J.R. Reed's a guy I really like at the safety position. He's been on my radar for the upcoming NFL draft classes for a while now, so I like him. Fromm's, he's a very solid quarterback. Is he just? I hate to say it, people are gonna get mad. I just think he's a little overhyped. He's not. To me, he's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Justin Herbert. He's not Tua. So I don't. He's just a slight step under him. But is he gonna go out and just put up a bunch of points? I think they're capable. I just don't know if Georgia's consistently capable of doing that. On a week by week basis. So that's the tough part for me. And then losing some top players. They lost their center in Gaylord. They lost. We talked about DeAndre Baker, DeAndre Walker too as well. So. Lost some key guys. I like their safety duo, like I mentioned, J.R. Reed and LeCount there, and then Andrew Thomas could be the best left tackle. So I like their offensive line. That's their ability to run the ball so well is because of that, and Swift can move for a good size back there. But it just scares me. I don't know if they can stay consistent scoring the ball really. So that's why I got them at 8. Some key losses there, but well coached. There's talent always coming in there, so they could possibly place higher. And 7 is Oklahoma. They'll score a bunch of points. I think the defense will actually be better than last year. So that kind of just sounds like, why aren't they back in the playoff? Well, and Jalen Hurts will be much better too, and he'll be good, but he's just not Kyler Murray. And they don't. Even though CeeDee Lamb may be a better prospect than Marquise Brown, he's not Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown a little more dynamic, a little more college football-esque, and CeeDee Lamb is very good though. He's gonna be a first-round pick and very, very good. So I'm looking forward to watching him. And they got a great running back duo. And Kennedy Brooks is more of the guy that I'm looking forward to. He had, I think, above 8 average yards per carry, which is ridiculous. When people think Oklahoma running back, I think they think Trey Sermon first, but who is very solid. But Brooks really stood out to me. So that's a good. I don't know who's going to start. Maybe different every game, but I think between the two, it's going to be a lot of fun. But a lot of returning guys on defense. That's why I think the defense will be a little better, and they should be the top Big 12 team. It's just, will they be as good offensively? They'll be good, but they'll be really good, but will they be as good? And then you have LSU, and really all defense you see up there, which I expect Joe Burrow to step up, just not the flashiest quarterback. They're supposed to try. They're trying to open things up offensively. They want to throw the ball downfield a little more. But what I'm really looking at is their defense. Once again, Grant Delpit, maybe my favorite player in the country. Do-it-all safety. We see he's the returning sack leader, and that's cool. But maybe that's not the best thing. They need to find a way to produce some pressure. But this defense could be the top one in the country. Christian Fulton, another top corner. Jacob Phillips was Devin White's partner there, just behind him in tackles. So can he take that step up and be like Devin White? I don't think quite, but he could be very good. So, but I think this offense scores. I think they can score some more points. So we're mainly showcasing the defense here, and it'll be a top defense, maybe the best in the nation possibly. But their offense will score some more points, and that's why they're up at 6. Really, this group of teams you see here, I was kind of back and forth on between all of them. Interesting. The more I talk about Florida, the more I like them. So it's just they got to go out and execute and stay consistent. The last year Florida, between Florida, Georgia, and LSU, it was like a 3-way split there. And then Florida will play Georgia again in Jacksonville, and they kind of fell apart in that game. I think they could bounce back from that one. So it's gonna be fun watching those teams there. And then we're gonna go one by one for the top 5. They get special treatment here, a little in depth for the top 5. And number 5 for me is gonna be Notre Dame. And the reason, they got returning talent, but there's a big reason why Notre Dame's up here, and that's pass rush. I think that we're looking at possibly the best pass rush team in college football here. Julian Okwara is just a beast. People are starting to finally talk about it. I'm going to talk about this guy for a while. I think he's a first round lock. And the reason it says edge next to his name, and then Khalid Kareem has a defensive end. Okwara they use in many different ways. Notre Dame last year looking like, at times running a 4-3, at times running a 3-4. It's because Okwara is that special piece there. He can do multiple different things, and he gets the pressure. He doesn't have the most sacks out of any of these pass rushers we talked about today, but he gets that pressure, and that's going to equal more sacks this year. And then on the opposite side, they got Khalid Kareem, who's a hand in the dirt defensive end, and he gets after the quarterback, hits him hard as well. And they have Nigel Hayes, who rotates in. That's a big 3 for a pass rush, and that is the main reason, among other things, but that's the main reason they're up here. You always got to respect that top pass rush team. And then Ian Book, the quarterback, who, when he was filling in a couple years ago for Brandon Wimbush, I didn't like what I saw. It was a young Ian Book, first chance, and a huge step up last year, huge improvement. And you talk about how he's working on different things and really working on improving things, and it really showed. He does need to stay more consistent. So can he show more improvement going forward and for this year? And if he does, maybe they're better than maybe they're better than number 5. But Book needs to stay more consistent, because one game you're looking like, okay, this could be a future, maybe, first couple round quarterback, and then one week it's like, okay, maybe we should put Wimbush back in. It's kind of like that. So we need to see him stay more consistent. Alohi Gilman could be one of the top safeties. We talked about a lot of safeties today, but this could be, one of the top ones. Grant Delpit's the top safety, but Gilman's up there for one of the top safeties in the country. I'd do-it-all safety. And returning receivers, they got Claypool, they got Fink. I can list off players for a lot of these top 5 teams here. The offense line's always great for Notre Dame. I expect it to be pretty darn good again. Running back, they did lose Dexter Williams. That's tough. And then losing guys like Drew Tranquill and Tavon Coney, Julian Love. But they just always have these guys stepping up. Javar Armstrong, I expect to be the running back, catch the ball very well. But again, the main thing is the pass rush. The quarterback pressure is what puts Notre Dame up here. The key game for this team is at Georgia. And I have Notre Dame ranked ahead of Georgia, but at Georgia is going to be a tough one. Georgia definitely can come out on top, And really, like I said, this is just how I rank the teams, how good they are. But, I wouldn't rule out a team like Georgia definitely getting back to the playoffs. I think that Notre Dame is probably their toughest game too, non-conference, and then just getting through just a couple teams in conference. Georgia could definitely be back. Obviously, you have the SEC championship, but Notre Dame at Georgia, kind of get that rematch from a couple years ago. It's going to be tough going there, but and it's the key matchup in that one is going to be Notre Dame's pass rush and then Georgia's very good offensive line. Guy like Andrew Thomas could be a top pick in the draft, one of the best left tackles we talked about. So, going to be fun. Going to be fun to watch that. For Notre Dame, like I said, I mentioned when I was talking about Virginia. They play Virginia. That's going to be a good one. I really like that Virginia team. So it should be fun to watch the Irish this year. Number 4 may surprise some people with this one, Texas A&M. I love this Texas A&M team. Jimbo Fisher turning this team around, turning this program around. And he's going to do it right now, right here, right now. Number 4 team for me in key game here. They do play Clemson early next year. I didn't put Clemson here, and we'll talk about why in a second. But going back to last year's game, it almost feels like A&M won that game, if you remember it. They kind of got screwed over in that game. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be a lot of scoring, I think. A lot of scoring. But the reason Alabama is there, A&M plays Clemson, I think it's the second week of the season. And, Clemson's going to be the favorite in Clemson. So we'll just say Clemson wins that game. They have to win that Bama game. If they lose to Clemson, I guess obviously you're trying to go out and win every game. A&M, I think very highly of them, so they can do that. But if, they're probably better off if they lost one of those games, being Clemson, and that key game they have to win is Alabama. It's in Texas A&M. They can put up some points on them. It's a very good defense, but they can score. Kellen Mond, I like a lot. This might be one of the more underrated quarterbacks, probably the one, college football wise, and people don't talk about him for the NFL. I went back and watched him, while watching, preparing for the NFL, this past NFL draft, and I liked what I saw during the year too. But I really liked the improvement I've seen. I like his game too. It kind of really fits today's styles too. So I like Mond, and he's going to continue to get better and better. And with Jimbo Fisher, and then the receiver group is really good. Kendrick Rogers was so fun to watch, so dominant when the ball's in the air, when he's got to go up and get it, so dominant in the red zone. He's real good. And then they're leading in terms of yards is Courtney Davis. So another one. I mean, they just got these receivers. They can play. That's maybe one of the top duos in the country. And then at the tight end to look out for is actually a true freshman in Baylor Cupp, to kind of take that Sternberger role. And this guy's an athletic freak. 6'6", he ran a 4.55 40 and a 36-inch vertical. I mean, this guy's a freak, so it's a guy to look out for. The downside of A&M is their defense, but they can keep up scoring with anybody, and they'll score more points than pretty much everybody. Their defense I worry about, and I struggled to put this high because of it, but they will score. We could be looking at maybe the top scoring team in the country. I think that offense is that good, and they lost Travion too, but I'm a big Mond fan, and I'm a big fan of those receivers too. So hopefully they don't let me down here, because I'm feeling them. And they can end up beating, it'd be crazy, but they can beat Clemson and Alabama. It's gonna be fun to watch there. Number 3, I got Ohio State. And it's a team that I've actually doubted in the past. I thought we're always overhyped, but I'm feeling this team this year. I'm feeling Justin Fields. I think he'll be something else. And Dwayne Haskins was something else too. But Fields brings a little more to the college game, let's say. He can make teams, he could be a game plan nightmare, really. He can move around. Can't wait to see him. I guess we didn't see much of him yet, so can't really judge too much, but I like him a lot. J.K. Dobbins, I expect to have a really good year, especially not splitting with Weber. Obviously, somebody else can step up, but I like him a lot. And Chase Young could be the top pick of the upcoming draft if it's not a quarterback. I believe 9.5 sacks last year. I think he'll easily get in the double digits. Another guy that I've seen improving over time, and that's what you love to see. He seems like he's gaining more athleticism too, and his technique is, working with the, that program and guys like Nick Bosa. He's gonna be better. He's gonna be much better, and he was already really good. Then Jordan Fuller is another top safety there. A lot of good safeties. And the list goes on with kind of talent they have. KJ Hill's their top receiver. They did lose some receivers, but I think they'll be okay. I think a guy like KJ Hill steps up. Tuff Borland is their top linebacker. Very fun to watch, a sure tackler. And then Damon Arnett is a guy we kind of expected more of maybe last year. I think we can see that more this year. So Ohio State, really what I'm banking on here is, Fields being what we expect him to be, those offensive pieces stepping up, but mainly this defense, because the defense was a disaster last year, and it kind of just came out of nowhere, I think this defense will be back, starting with Chase Young, but the talent, there's talent throughout this defense. I think it'll be back. I really do. I'm feeling that. And I got them at number 3. I got them as the Big Ten champion here. And the key game, of course, is at Michigan, last game of the year. Michigan's a real good team. They got talent. Can they execute? They're home for this game. So it could flip based off that game. The winner of the Big Ten should be, I guess based on that game, the outcome of that game. Number 2 and 1. I mean, I can't really disagree with you if you have it flipped. I got Bama at 2. And their key game is A&M, which we just talked about them. It's at Texas A&M. A&M can score. They will score. So that's a tough game that they could actually lose. But I have Alabama as a better team here. I think they're more complete. Tua, not could be. He's going to be a top pick in the draft. He's got to just limit the turnovers. They would come randomly, but they would be kind of key, for the other team. Najee Harris, I'm really excited about. I thought he was he kind of was their better running back since he came in there, So I think he's really going to explode this year. And then I was only choosing 4 players to watch because, I can keep on going on all day with some of these teams because I wanted to make it unique with 4. But we kind of got 3 for 1 here with the receivers in Judy, Ruggs, and Waddle. Jesus, this is a trio. And really all of them could be first-round picks. They really could. Judy had well over 1,000 yards last year with 14 touchdowns. Ruggs, who's very fast, had over 700 yards, 11 touchdowns. And then Waddle had actually more yards than Ruggs with over 800 yards, but he had 7 touchdowns. So, that's a lot from those guys, too. That is a receiver unit. And then take your pick from a defensive player. I went with Anthony Jennings because they need that pressure, and Anthony Jennings will get that. But what I like about him is the ability to deflect passes. He's got some long arms, pretty good athlete too. I thought he could go to the draft last year, could be a late first round pick, comes back. So that could be big time. If we're talking key player, Anthony Jennings is pretty key because he's got to get that pressure. But I think Raekwon Davis is a key player because 2 years ago, I'm thinking this guy's maybe going to be the best player in the draft next year. Thinking that 2 years ago about the 2019 draft, and then last year, he was disappointing to me. He looked lost at times, kind of got turned around. He's still a good player, but he had a very off year in my opinion. And Quinnen Williams kind of took the spotlight, but then no more Quinnen Williams, who was an absolute dominant player. So pretty, a good amount of pressure for Raekwon Davis to step back up, which I think he can. So that's going to be interesting. And Dylan Moses, it's tough leaving players off the players to watch list. Dylan Moses, leading tackler, very solid linebacker for them, could be a first-round pick. I can go on naming the defensive backs too. Trevon Diggs, who's also could be a return man. Surtain, McKinney, Carter. I can just keep naming these DBs that are just very solid. So, it's a very good team. I think there's a big gap after the top 2 teams here. And I'm kind of back and forth on who's 1 and who's 2. Clemson I got at 1. The quarterback has a lot to do with it. Trevor Lawrence, I guess we want to see more, but it's almost like I've seen enough. Like we're just waiting for a couple NFL drafts from now, the top pick of the draft, who's going to get him. That's kind of what we're waiting for. And it's interesting that the key game for the top 2 teams is the same team I think very highly of in Texas A&M. Clemson, really, I thought A&M won that game. They really got screwed. And then what would have happened then, because Clemson clearly was the best team at the end of the year, obviously. So interesting. So the rematch game there, but it is in Clemson. But Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, who is the best running back in the country. Jonathan Taylor's really good too, and needs to hang on to the ball a little better. But Etienne, something I noticed last year, he lost a little bit of speed, but so much strength gained. So much. So fun to watch. Another one that's a first-round pick. I think he's the top running back in the country. And then you got the best receiver duo in the country here in Justin Ross, who is just super fun to watch with his fantastic catches. And then T. Higgins. So that's an excellent receiver duo there. And then Xavier Thomas, the defensive end, he's another freak guy too. He can step off the ball, put a hand in the dirt, rush from there. They lost their entire defensive line. So that's kind of a reason that maybe I should put Bama ahead of Clemson because they lost their entire offensive line, or defensive line, I should say. And so that's why I'm kind of back and forth. But Thomas is a freak guy that's going to get the pressure. But, I guess missing those D tackles on the inside is kind of like, oh, maybe Bama's better. But I think Clemson's offense is what we're really looking at here. Another one you can argue is the best in the country. Just crazy. that they can score that many points. What we've seen them do against Notre Dame and Alabama, two really good defenses. Basically did the same thing 2 weeks in a row with those two teams. But yeah, kind of going back to the talent there, it's hard to leave a guy like Isaiah Simmons, A.J. Terrell off the list. Isaiah Simmons, a freakish linebacker, freakish athlete, 89 tackles last year, kind of thinking of ways how teams are going to use him in the NFL. He's almost like a safety. I think he was a former safety, actually. So very fun to watch those guys, that receiver duo. We talk about that. Bama's got the best trio, but this duo is something else. A lot of good receivers, too. We talk about there's good safeties, a lot of good receivers in college football. So I got Clemson at 1, mainly because I think that offense can consistently score an insane amount of points. Trevor Lawrence, he's the best in the country. Can't quite go to the draft this year, so that's unfortunate, but we get to see more of him in the college football world. All right, like I promised, the teams that just missed the cut and sneaky teams. So the team that just missed the cut is Cincinnati. I really like the Cincinnati team. They got a lot better over the years, especially last year. Michael Warren's an excellent running back. See him pictured in the background. And it was just tough to put 3 AAC teams in there, and I just think Houston just gets the edge because I think they'll be able to score an insane amount of points. But Cincinnati, I like the Cincinnati team. Mississippi State lost a lot on defense. I think their offense, they'll be able to throw the ball around a little better, and then we'll probably have some guys step up on defense. They lost a lot on defense, so I couldn't quite keep them in. Michigan State, most people have Michigan State in because they have a lot of returning guys. I got ripped last year for not having them in the top 25, and that actually worked out in my favor. They'll probably end up ranked in the top 25 at the end of the year because I think it's an easier schedule. But in terms of who the roster, the team, I don't just missed the cut. I'm not a huge Lewerke fan, but he can get better. Oklahoma State, somebody will step up at quarterback. You're kind of waiting to see who it is. And then Wallace, the receiver, is just excellent. Another guy that can be a first-round receiver. A.J. Green, their corner, excellent corner. It's weird seeing a top Big 12 corner, but he's definitely one to look out for. But Oklahoma State could be in there. Boise State's another one. I had Utah State over them. Boise, they got Weaver as a pass rusher. He's real good. Just missing Rippon. I think they'll miss him desperately, and that's what keeps them out. But it'll be close. In Wisconsin, it's got a guy like Jonathan Taylor. They always have a good offensive line, even though they lost an awful lot on it, and they lost an awful lot everywhere, it seems like, and they kind of struggled last year. So I think Taylor's really got to carry the team. And the sneaky teams, not quite as good as the teams that just missed the cut, but these teams, they can be better. They're real sneaky. Vanderbilt, they get Riley Neal from Ball State, who I actually liked a lot, and he's going to be their starting quarterback, long quarterback, got a very good arm. And then they got Pinckney, who could be the best tight end in the nation, really. They got guys, the Lipscomb, the receiver. They got guys all over the place on Vanderbilt, so it's weird seeing them in there because they've struggled and they play in the best conference in the country, but they got talent, Maybe teams can score on them, but they got talent. Kansas State with an off year last year. New good coach in there. Skylar Thompson's a guy. I've seen glimpses, flashes of him that I'm really impressed with, from him. But then he has his moments. But I think he's got some upside. They got a lot of returning guys, looking at the defensive guys too. So Kansas State's a sneaky team to look out for. Nebraska definitely could step up a lot of returners. Adrian Martinez, they got a great coaching staff over there too. So that's a team that can really just turn around like that. In Colorado, we seen a couple years ago were excellent and then really were bad last year. Coaching change, they can turn around as well. Laviska Shenault, another very good receiver to look out for. Northwestern, this team can play. Fitzgerald's always got them playing. Very good defense. Patty Fisher, maybe the best linebacker in the country. So another team that's just always sneaky. They're always sneaky. And Army had a very good season last year. They almost upset Oklahoma. And you see them just really beat down on teams too, and just them be able to put up a fight with a team like Oklahoma and just be impressive all last year and have so many returning guys. That's why I had to throw them up here. But though, yeah, those are the teams. You want to discuss any other teams? I'd say Virginia Tech also another team that I can mention here that can really go on either list. If it one on the top of my head there. But I feel like I was talking for a long time here. Went over a lot of good stuff, though. I can't wait for college football. We cover that. We cover the NFL fully in season. We'll have weekly picks for both. So I can't wait. If you guys want to discuss anything about this, anything you think I missed, I talked a lot, so definitely could have missed something. Feel free to comment. We can discuss there, or go to our Twitter. You probably get an instant response from me if you go to our Twitter, link in the description. But click that subscribe button. We much appreciate it. We're trying to get to our goal. We have daily sports videos. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.